Charlotte thought about how to approach this throughout the rest of her shift at work. Her first thought was simply to walk up to the front door and demand to know what was happening, but she dismissed that idea almost as soon as it had come to her. It was absurd to think that would get results. The next idea she had was to try and get herself captured and to pass through the facility to see what was happening inside, but, yet again, this was a terrible idea. She had no idea what was going on inside the building, and if she ended up getting caught, she had no way of knowing she could get out. Despite the illegality of such a maneuver, Charlotte quickly decided that her one option was to try and break into the facility. It was a risky move, but her hope was that if she was caught and discovered to be a journalist, that they would let her go. That is why Charlotte found herself in a bush very similar to the one the video had been filmed in. It was pitch black, and in the very early hours of the morning, Charlotte drank the last of her coffee from her thermos flask as she watched the guard making his rounds. She had been watching for hours now and thought she had discovered a way in, a way to shimmy up onto the roof. Dressed all in black, Charlotte darted out of the bushes as the guard walked around the corner. She estimated that she had about 30 seconds from the moment he disappeared, and she sprinted across the opening and up to the side of the building. She did a quick check to make sure her bag, camera, and everything else was securely tied to her. "Come on. You can do this," Charlotte whispered to herself in the darkness. The glow of a single outside light lit the area Charlotte was in. Grasping the drainpipe, Charlotte lifted herself up and began to climb as silently as possible. When she was about 3/4 of the way up the building, she slipped and for a second thought she was going to fall. She regained her grip just in time, but was more than dismayed when she saw her cell phone fall out of her pocket and land on the grass at the bottom of the facility. "Shit," Charlotte muttered as she looked down at the phone. There was no time to go and get it or to mourn its loss. Charlotte climbed up the last few feet of the tall building and pulled herself over the edge and onto the roof. She panted slightly as she looked over the edge. The building was a lot taller than it looked in the video, and she must have been at least 3 stories up. After taking a moment to regain her breath, Charlotte stood up and started carefully creeping around the roof looking for an opening to the building. She could feel her heart hammering, and she could hardly believe that she was actually doing this. She took photographs of everything she could and took mental notes about her route. This was investigative journalism at its finest, Charlotte thought. Charlotte wanted to remember everything about this, to remember it for her book deal and Pulitzer Prize that she was increasingly sure she would get once this was over. Something big was going on here, and Charlotte was going to blow it wide open. Charlotte saw a door that she creeped over to. She pulled the door and was quite shocked when the door opened up straight away. She assumed it would have been locked, but she guessed that they didn't expect anyone to be on the roof like this. The door opened to a well-lit steel staircase. Charlotte quickly slipped inside and closed the door behind her in case someone saw the light. The building was warmer than it was outside, and there was a slight hum as if a great amount of electricity was moving through the building. When the door clicked shut, the outside world suddenly seemed 1,000 miles away. Charlotte felt like she had just entered enemy territory. Charlotte tiptoed down the steel staircase. There was a metallic sound with each step that echoed between the narrow walls. The immaculately white-painted walls were almost blindingly bright as the lights on the ceiling shined down. It was very unwelcome, and Charlotte was forced to shield her eyes as she descended the staircase. It was rather disorientating, to say the least. When Charlotte reached a door halfway down the stairs, she pressed her ear up against the solid metal door. There were sounds of mechanical movement from the other side, but no sound of any people. Charlotte gave the door a small push and it opened very slightly. She carefully peered inside to see a dark corridor with doors on either side. Taking her flashlight from her bag, Charlotte flicked it on and started slowly walking down the quiet hallway. The quiet building was very disconcerting. Charlotte had expected a lot more people hanging around. Where were the people she saw being brought in? Intake, orders, processing. The doors that Charlotte walked past were all clearly labeled with expensive-looking plaques, but nothing seemed out of the ordinary. This looked like the office department of any business. There didn't seem to be anything unusual about any of this. Charlotte continued down the hallway looking for anything that was unusual. She wasn't exactly sure what she was going to see. It wasn't likely that she would just stumble on all those people or the answer to what was going on. She was just about to retreat to the stairs when she saw a door at the end of the hallways that looked a bit different to the rest of them. This door was painted a bright red and had the words, "No admittance. Level 5 only," stenciled on the door in black. Unlike the other doors, this one had no window on it. Charlotte walked up to the door and read the brass plaque, "Delivery Systems, Drones." There was something deeply mysterious about this door that made Charlotte certain that she needed to know what was inside. Unfortunately, the door was locked and had a very elaborate locking mechanism. Charlotte wouldn't be able to get in without a key card. Frowning, Charlotte walked back to the metal staircase and walked into the blinding light again. She continued walking down into the bowels of the building. There were several doors that led to hallways similar to the first, but Charlotte could find nothing of interest down any of them. The inescapable feeling that the building was swallowing her became stronger as she walked down the stairs until Charlotte was sure she must be underground in some kind of basement. Even the mechanical whirring that she had heard further up appeared to be quieter here. She got the distinct feeling that she was very alone. Finally, at the bottom of the winding staircase, was yet another door. A door with a very different sign hanging from it, a sign that made Charlotte audibly gasp and put her hand to her mouth.